Each passing day, we hear of severe tragedies, with the rise of violence and chaos either here or in some part of the world. We are daily bombarded with the latest news of war or rumors of war, along with the threat of food and energy shortages. And to add to our woes, there is yet another wave of a COVID variant hitting our shores once again. As a result, we continue to face waves of fear and for many, hearts that have failed and given to despair. In Psalm chapter 73, verse 26, while in deep distress, the psalmist Asaph stated that his heart and flesh had failed. In his heart, he sensed his own inadequacy to pull himself out of his circumstances, recognizing his inability to deal with the difficulty he was now facing. And in his flesh, he felt spent, having lost all strength to even take another step forward. His inner struggle caused his mind to become very distressed, losing courage as it drove him further towards hopelessness. The psalmist found that as his heart grieved, he was like a beast without sense or reasoning, for he allowed his wrong perspective to cloud the truth of God's unfailing love and mercy. In our moments of affliction and suffering, we cannot trust our emotions, for these can lead us down a slippery slope to deep discouragement and loss of hope. We must hold on to the truth of God's word despite how we feel. Have you been experiencing the same sentiments as the psalmist, unable to cope with the sorrow and trouble that surrounds you? Perhaps you recently received bad news that has paralyzed you with fear or with grief and pain. You have turned to friends or family for comfort, but only to find that they have moved on and it left you with a piercing emptiness and a deep sense of abandonment. You may have even tried turning to other things, hoping to find an escape from your troubles, but were left still empty and dissatisfied. These may have given some temporary relief, but in the long term, they cannot provide the comfort, peace, healing, and reassurance one needs. Keep in mind that the season of suffering we are in can lead us to believe lies about God's character, calling into question His love and power to bring us through our difficulties. This can cause us to turn away from Him and turn to other things instead for help or relief. Our help can only come from the Lord. The Bible tells us that God is our refuge, that is our hiding place, and strength, a present help in trouble, that is an immediate help in our times of trouble. However, God will at times allow distress in our lives to cause us to realize that our only hope is Jesus as we turn to Him in faith. God longs to hear the cries of His children because He desires the opportunity to reveal more of Himself and His power to us in times of distress. The psalmist's wrong thinking caused him deep distress until he entered the sanctuary of God. Then he understood. How quickly our perspective changes when we have spent time in God's presence through prayer and reading God's word, humbly taking our troubles and complaints to Him. The Lord will graciously meet us right where we are at in that moment. Take your doubts, disappointments, anger, fear, and anxious thoughts to God in prayer. God met the psalmist in his darkest moment of anger and doubt and will do the same for us. It was only when he entered God's presence that the psalmist could see that only the Lord was his strength, his defense, the Almighty One who could shield him, comfort, and protect him in times of trouble. And that God was his portion, that is his greatest treasure and reward. God is the only one that could reach to the deepest recesses of our hearts and minds to bring the comfort, peace, and the emotional healing we need. The psalmist came to realize God as his only true help, and therefore could say to God, "Whom do I have in heaven but you? And there is no one upon the earth that I desire besides you." Once we come to this place, we will know without a doubt that there is no one else who could satisfy the deepest longing of our hearts. Even when our strength fails, He will remain faithful and will sustain us throughout all we encounter. We will then experience true satisfaction, hope, and peace no matter what we face each day.